the February 9th, 2021 REA General Meeting. And I would like to welcome all of you and really appreciate your participation. As Jim said, and I thank Jim Barras, our immediate past president, for hosting our Zoom meetings. He goes above and beyond and so forth. Remember that we're recording this meeting and it'll be played on our YouTube channel. So be careful what you say. Again, welcome to everybody. I think we're going to have a great presentation from Mike Zucchet a little bit later. I'd like to welcome everybody again. And Greg, I see Greg Automaker is here. Marcel, are you here somewhere?
Yep.
I am. I'm here.
Okay. Welcome to you. Marcel is the Deputy CEO of SERS, and Greg is the CEO, and we always appreciate you coming. Did you want to say hello, Greg?
Yes, it's just it's wonderful to see everybody, and thank you so much for the opportunity to partner with REA, and look forward to working with everybody in 2021.
Great. We're going to hear from Cynthia in a bit, but I'd first like to just indicate that I hope everybody has had a chance to get vaccinations. What I'd like to do is do a little survey. If you've gotten your first vaccination, raise your hand. Let's see those hands. Okay, I can't see the ones that are not on my screen, but it looks like a number of folks have. All right, put them down. If you've had your second vaccination, raise your hand. Whoa. One, I see one, two. Okay. Well, I hope everybody has a chance. Things are loosening up. I know there's a lot more places that offer it. Somebody's sound is on.
To do what?
We need to unmute some people. Okay.
Dick, you need to unmute again.
Dick, you're muted.
Yeah, I had to mute everyone, including Dick, because of the background sound. So please stay muted, especially if you got background noise.
All right. What I was saying before I unmuted myself or whatever is that I hope you get a chance to, if you haven't had a vaccination, you get a chance. And what people have found, and you probably, most of you who have participated, you just got to keep trying different sources and stuff, and you'll get it. Now this morning we're going to try something a little different to start out the meeting.
Be honest.
Join the meeting.
I've mentioned that the last two meetings and in our email, our newsletter, that Janet Wood, who has been our 10-year newsletter editor, has retired from that position and has done a great job over the year. And she was selected by the board in the last year to be the awardee for the person that we believe, the board believes, has developed and done the most for retirees and REA. So she's been selected. And I indicated at the time that she would be receiving a gift from REA, and that gift was a Tivoli audio radio. But what happened because of COVID, things were delayed and we didn't get her the radio. And so Brad Jacobson, our brilliant REA secretary, has come across some new technology. And believe me, this is going to be big news. But we're gonna announce it here this morning. We're going to actually teleport the radio from my house to Janet's house. Now, I'm not sure this is going to work, but Brad guarantees us that it will work. And if it does work, Janet's going to get her radio, and I do hope that you will let people know that this was successful. So what I want to do is the radio is in a box. And you can see the box here, sort of. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, Brad, would you activate the technology for us, please? I'm going to actually push this through.
All systems go.
Push it through, and let's see if it shows up at Janet's. Janet, do you see anything yet there? Need you to unmute, Janet.
No, I don't see anything.
Didn't work? It didn't make it to your house?
No, try again.
All right. Damn. Brad, what's the matter with us? All right.
You don't have the right vibes.
There it goes.
All right.
Look at this. Look what I got.
Oh, it worked. Fantastic.
I have presented to Janet Wood in appreciation of her years of service doing the newsletter.
Fantastic.
And a thank you card.
Wow.
Thanks, Jack. Everyone.
Well,
Thanks,
it
Tom.
took 2 tries, but I guess with new technology, you got to keep trying.
Well, there you
Thank you
go.
for that. Thanks, Janet, for 10 great years. And I'm glad the teleportation worked and you got your
Yeah.
radio.
You know, the next step is you turn into a giant fly. But
No. I'm half fly, half radio.
Okay. The minutes of our last meeting in January have been posted onto the website. And so if you want to review them, they're always available before the meeting. I'd like a motion to approve the minutes of the general meeting. I have a second. All in favor, say aye. Good. I didn't hear you, but I know you've all voted yes. We had another excellent presentation from Scott Lewis. He's always a popular one, and I think it was really timely. And again, remind you that we have an REA YouTube channel. You can link to it from our website. You can link to it from our e-blast and so forth. So you can watch that if you missed it. The treasurer's report for January. We used to have them available at our meetings for handout, but since we're meeting by Zoom, what you need to do to see that is to email our treasurer, and she will email you back or send you an email, send you by snail mail a copy of our treasurer's report for January. And want to also remind you that we've started, we have 2 Zoom sessions, one for the board and one for the general meeting. What we've done is Joe Flynn reminded us that we always used to make ourselves, our board meetings accessible to our membership. And when we were down at the War Memorial Building, and since we were Zooming, we weren't able to do that. So what we've decided to do is we're still having 2 Zoom sessions, but you may have noticed when we sent out our e-blast announcing this session that if you want to attend our board meeting and listen in to what the board's doing, all you have to do is when you get the e-blast with the link and everything, just email Brad Jacobson, our secretary, and he will get back to you with a link that gives you the link and the number and all the information so you can listen in on the board meeting. So we're going to be doing that from here on out. With that, I'd like to ask Cynthia Queen, our Membership Services Director for SERS, to give us her report on SERS, what's going on. Cynthia? Got it. Unmute. There we go.
Yes, thank you. Again, wouldn't it be great if there really was a mute button on Cynthia? My cheeks still hurt from the transportation of Janet's well-deserved gift. Janet, you are a delight, and good job with the technology. I'm a longtime Star Wars fan, Star Trek, and so teleport is a good time.
That was Brad who did that.
Well, he is a charm. So congratulations to you again. But thank you. So wonderful to see you all. I do look forward to this monthly meeting. And this time I just want to report that, hooray, I do believe all of you received your 1099 forms in a very timely manner. And I'd like to give a shout out to Marcel Voorhees-Rossman on the call here, our Deputy CEO, who is in charge of the people who do all of that work, not including, I just sitting around making sure everything goes out on time because I want everyone to be happy. But it is the thing to me that's impressive about it is we do celebrate holidays at SD SERS and have families, and this work, there's a lot of work that has to be done over the Christmas and other various holidays and Hanukkah and New Year's time. And so when people traditionally take time off, we have to have people who keep working in order to get those 1099s out the door and make sure all the pieces work. And a shout out to Ted LaSalvia, our controller, who has worked hard to make sure that all those pieces keep flowing. So a great team effort, and we're just so pleased. In partnership with you, we always continue to improve our processes and and just looking for new ways to do things. So as many of you know, we do have all of those forms available on our website. So if for some reason you need an extra copy, or if your dog ate a copy, you can easily access that from our member portal. And you could also access past year's forms if you needed that for some reason. So very pleased, and thank you all for just all your efforts in communicating and partnering with us on the things that are really important and make sure that we're keeping things flowing. So we certainly agree working with, enjoy working with you all on all of these items. And we do enjoy coming every month. We are excited for Michael Zucchet and to hear what he has to say. And we're looking forward to that. So thank you for having us. And if anybody has any questions, of course, we'd be happy to answer them.
I do want to add our thanks, or the retirees' thanks for getting the 99s out so quickly. Enables everybody to get a head start on filing their taxes. So that was great. I don't know, was this a record time-wise, Cynthia?
It is, but I don't want to brag about it because, you know, what if Christmas falls on a different day next year? We're just still trying our very best. And I can see there's a couple questions in the queue, so I'll let you guys be glad to go through those.
Ty has one. Ty? Got to unmute. Unmute, Ty. There, you're not unmuted. Can I do it?
No, he's got to do it himself.
Yeah,
And I
Ty,
know
you
Chris
have
has
to
a question.
unmute. We can't hear you unless you unmute.
Let's go to Chris. He's got a
Dick,
question.
while you're waiting for Ty, can I ask my question?
Sure.
Cynthia, at the last meeting, you mentioned that you guys had an overwhelming number of requests for Medicare reimbursements in January. I'm just wondering how things are going with that.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it to Marcel in 1 second, but I do want you to know that I purposely checked with the manager of our health team to see how things were going this morning, to see what we wanted to update. But I am so thankful Marcel appears to be unmuted, and I think she can give us a quick update. Thank you.
I think I'm unmuted. Thank you
Yes.
for asking the question. Yes, we had an enormous response. We actually had about a 10-fold increase in the number of Medicare reimbursements. For the payrolls of December and January, we had, I think the regular reimbursements was about 1,800 and the Medicare reimbursements was about 2,000. So it was a very large number that came through. And I am happy to say that everything that was timely received with all the information that we needed was processed in time for both the December and the January payrolls. So it was a big effort by staff. We pulled a lot of people over from other divisions to help out. As you may know, I have 2 people that full-time process reimbursements. That's it. And so normally that's fine. Normally we average about 900 reimbursements a month. They're able to do that. But with the enormous increase that we had, we did pull staff from other divisions and they got the job done. Everyone should have received theirs as long as we received it timely and it was complete. I'm happy to answer any other questions you may have.
Yeah, and Marcel, why, I'm just intrigued, why would there be like an increased number? You got this more or less the same number of retirees. Were they unaware that they could get these reimbursements and suddenly filed, or what happened?
No, what happens is the first of the year, every year, is when Medicare may or may not increase the Medicare Part B premiums. And they did this year, and it increased by about $2 a month. And so in order for us to pay that increased amount, we need to get the documentation from each member. Just because there was that increase doesn't mean that everybody necessarily did have that increase. And then there are also other pieces where some people pay more than the standard. So whenever they make that change, we have that issue. On top of that, a lot of our members who have privately secured insurance, they're not using one of the insurance products that is sponsored by either the city or SDPBA. For those members, a lot of their rates also change on January 1st. So it was an enormous amount of changes. So it wasn't just people all of a sudden deciding that they wanted to apply for Medicare. It was that they realized that there was an increase in the premiums. I can tell you we are still getting those increased premium notices. I was helping out with the health team a bit yesterday and I had 3 more come in yesterday. So when those come in, we do retroactively apply them to January 1st. So if you hear anyone saying, oh, I didn't know, or I didn't get it in, please submit it to us and we will still retroactively get that processed for them. But that's the main reason, is that when the rates change, we see the big increase. They changed this year, they changed last year. I believe it was 2 years ago, they didn't change. So then it was a really quiet December, January 4th. But the last 2 years, or I think it's the last 3 years they've changed. and it just greatly increases the number we have. And there's no other way around it. Retirees get the letters from Social Security Administration, usually the end of November, beginning of December. They send them in to us as soon as possible. We can start processing them right away for a future date, but it just is an overwhelming response that we get for that time period of December, January.
Thank you.
I see that Ty is unmuted. Ty, what was your question? Your comment?
My question is to Cynthia. Cynthia, did you get my Social Security?
I think Ty has got a little bit of a.
Cynthia,
I think I've got it. Are you
did
asking
you
about
get
your,
my Social Security?
Ty, do you mean your
Social
Medicare
Security.
or something special? Yes, I will. We can double check on that. I believe you're talking
Okay.
about the same thing Marcel was talking about. I'll check for that for you today.
Okay.
All right, are there other questions?
Terry,
for
someone
Cynthia,
named Terry
or
has a question.
who's that?
Cynthia, I called the office about a week and a half ago about the deductions paper that normally comes out that shows everything that's been withheld that we can deduct on that. And they said it would be done probably this week. Is that finished yet?
Like dental.
It's like our dental insurance and stuff that we pay for that we can deduct.
So Marcel is listening as well. We're trying to make sure we understand the question. You're talking about a excuse me. You have your medical through someone that is not one of the city sponsored plans?
No,
MEA.
Okay, you're talking about your dental then.
right.
Terry, just remind me of your last name and we can double check on that. I do need to look in the system. I would bet that it would be done, but I want to be sure. So could you
Baird,
please tell me-
B-A-I-R-D.
It's like.
Got it.
vision or
We'll check on
dental.
that. I'll check on both Ty and Terry and we'll get back to you.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you.
Okay,
It's like
thank you all
vision.
for that. And thank you, sirs, for a great job and for your partnering with REA. We really appreciate it. Is Mike Zucchet online? Is he good? Okay. Again, I always say Mike is one of those people that needs no introduction, but I do want to introduce him to you all again. And if you're new to us, Mike is the longtime general manager of the Municipal Employees Association, MEA. As you know, we have a close and have had for a good while a close partnership with MEA. They brought SDPBA into the world, and we and the public safety people and a number of other associations have joined in that effort, and it's been highly successful and has helped us recruit new members. It's opened up new benefit opportunities. And so we really do, as an organization, appreciate our partnership, and we appreciate what MEA and SDPBA has brought to us. Mike has a long and distinguished career, was on the city council, is now been the longtime general manager of MEA. He's also on the Port Authority board, so he's having an impact on our region as well. And we want to welcome Mike, and let me turn it over to you, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you, Dick. I appreciate that introduction very much. Can you hear me okay?
Gotcha.
Very good. Well, nice to be with you all again. I really enjoy these meetings, usually in person, but this year just to see some of the faces and names on the computer. Want to appreciate all of the former board members of MEA who are here today and active with REA, Candy, of course, Jim Barras and Howard Greenstein, Lisa Gehring I saw in there, and of course, Ty Rogers. And Jim Barras is our current, your representative on MEA's board. So he sits in and participates and votes in all of MEA's board meetings. So he keeps an eye on us, make sure we're not doing anything too hanky. And I always love seeing other names on here like Marilyn Marisol, who I worked with when I first came to the city, when I worked for Valerie Stallings. Hi, Marilyn. You were in the cubicle next to me. That was 25 years ago. Holy cow, time flies. And Brad Jacobson and Ellie Oppenheim and other people worked with back in the day. Anyway, so sorry, enough reminiscing. I really wanted something Dick mentioned, I want to highlight the partnership between REA and MEA has really been great and mutually beneficial over the years. Dick and Jim Barras and Chris Brewster and Janet Wood and others and I and others at MEA meet on a monthly basis and talk about issues, whether it's like Dick was talking about healthcare and or pension issues or anything else of common interest. And that communication has just been fantastic. So I appreciate the leadership of REA for always being communicative and engaging. And like I say, I think that's mutually beneficial. Want to talk about 3 brief issues and then save as much time as possible for questions where we can dig deeper into those or talk about something else. First, with all the bad news swirling these days, I do want to focus on some good news in terms of the elections at City Hall in November. And I think it would be impossible to overstate the difference in based on the election results at City Hall. We had 5 open city council seats, meaning we have 5 brand new city council members and of course a new mayor. And there's been a lot of talk about the partisan makeup now of the city council, but in terms of employees and how employees are thought of and treated by elected officials at City Hall, we now have, for starters, 2 city council members, Raul Campillo and Marnie von Wilpert, who were city employees just a few months ago. And so they have lived the life of city employees who were underpaid compared to their counterparts in other jurisdictions. And they watched colleagues go out the door for that higher pay and compensation in other jurisdictions, for employees who left for defined benefit pensions, since the city of San Diego, at least for now, doesn't offer those to new hires, et cetera. So to have those sort of, not only are they both great quality, capable people, both lawyers, but they've, to have that actual experience as a city employee is big. And those 2 council members replaced Scott Sherman and Mark Kersey. And God bless Scott Sherman and Mark Kersey, but they weren't exactly the most, employee centric city council members the city has ever seen. And so just those 2 changes right there has just been a massive shift in terms of, if you just look at the budget priorities that the city council put in writing in December, it's much more focused on the human capital of the city and investing in the human capital. They still talk about potholes and investing in potholes, and that's cool. But at least they put their human capital on par with some of their infrastructure capital needs, and recognize that without the employees, these essential services are simply not going to be delivered. And given the woeful state of their human capital and their uncompetitiveness with salaries and everything else, that they need to do something about it. So that's been a shift. And then obviously going from Kevin Faulkner to Todd Gloria as mayor has been a big shift. Now, we did get some things done with Mayor Faulkner, and he was certainly an improvement in terms of his focus on employees compared to some other mayors. But Todd Gloria is also just night and day, and there's no better example of that than Prop B. The former mayor Faulkner was, one of the authors and chief boosters of Prop B. And a couple weeks ago, when we won another court decision in Prop B, Todd Gloria put out a press release saying, "Yeah, I told you that was a terrible idea back in 2012 when I campaigned against it and argued that it was gonna that the voters were being lied to, and that it was going to have a very negative effect on city employees and the services they provide." So again, just it's a new day at City Hall, and I just wanted to underscore that. And then of course we have Joe LaCava, who's a new council member, District 1, who's fantastic. Sean Elo Rivera in District 9, who's a new council member there and is fantastic. And Stephen Whitburn in District 3, who's also new and is a very strong voice and a very strong supporter of city employees. And they join a four other council members, all of whom have also been very supportive. So that's the good news. The bad news is, of course, the city is broke, which is, nothing that's new to anybody on this call. The city claims it's broke every year for the last 40 years, but this year, they have a point, and the pandemic, unfortunately, has created quite a short-term shock to particularly hotel taxes, but other revenues to the city. So, we're working with the council and the new mayor and his administration to help support their efforts for federal stimulus money, which would be transformative in the city budget. But whether that comes or not, our focus on negotiations, which we are at the bargaining table again this year, is that investment in human capital. So that obviously has a ways to play out. Every year with negotiations, as everybody in this call probably remembers, it's months of negotiations, but not a lot of action, and everything happens right at the last second. And that's going to be true this year, probably times 10, and it may even run into April or May timeframe before we figure out what's going on in Washington, D.C. and what the implications of all that are. So that's certainly what we have on our site.
Michelle Barrett, join the meeting.
Last issue I want to talk about, I feel like I talk about this issue literally every year I've been coming to REA since 2011, which is Prop B. As most of you probably saw, and we advertised. Our attorney Ann Smith has won another Prop B victory since the California Supreme Court's unanimous ruling back in 2018. The final step in the litigation process is to actually remove the Prop B language from the city's charter, and that's done through a process in San Diego Superior Court called a quo warranto process, which is endorsed by the California Attorney General and done actually on behalf of the people of California, but argued by Ann Smith and other union lawyers. And Judge Richard Strauss ruled the way we argued, the only way he could rule, consistent with the California Supreme Court ruling, which is that because Prop B was illegally placed on the ballot by the city, its language has to be removed from the city charter, and it is invalid. That written judgment was actually entered yesterday in Superior Court. The judge made the ruling from the bench in the first week of January, but it was confirmed in writing and entered yesterday. So what that means is there's now a 60-day clock that runs where the ballot proponents, that is the three technically named sponsors of Prop B, who have been fighting this all the way, now have 60 days to appeal this ruling back to the appellate court. They have appealed everything for 9 years. One would expect them to appeal this one as well. And if they do that, then we're back to the appellate court, where we're very confident in the same result. Again, given the unanimous Supreme Court ruling, there's not much room for any court in California to do anything differently. But it would add probably 18 to 24 months onto the end game of this process. So we have had some communication with some surrogates sort of on that side, helping them see the light as to that this is over. And the only thing delay does is makes it more expensive for the city, more expensive for the citizens of the city, more expensive, more damaging for recruitment and retention, which translates into services and everything else. So we'll see how much they care about those things, which they've said was their goal in getting into this first place, and how much they care about, their political talking points. One of the big questions is, which is, not really answerable right now, but is, okay, well, let's say they don't appeal. What happens in 60 days? Does the light switch get turned back on and everybody back into the pension pool? And the answer is, No, it goes to a meet and confer process with the city where they have to discuss with the unions as to how to follow the order of invalidation of Prop B. And there will be a lot of people involved in that discussion, including the city attorney and SD-SERS and everybody else, to sort of figure out how this is going to work when Prop B is essentially undone and unwound. And what's it going to cost? What is it going to look like for the city? What's it going to look like for individual employees? What sort of choices might they have or not have? What happens to people who haven't been hired yet? And so, let me preempt any good logical questions about that. It's all going to be speculative until we can actually, first of all, until the ruling is final, meaning it hasn't been appealed. And when that decision actually comes, all those things will be figured out. With that said, there has been a lot of preliminary work done and some informal discussions that have happened. And I do think that process will be a relatively smooth process with all of those parties to, I'm not saying it won't be complicated, but it's pretty clear what needs to be done. And it's just a matter of figuring out how and how much it costs. And that's Bruno. I apologize. He gets very excited about pensions, and UPS trucks, but hopefully that package will be delivered soon. So let me wrap up there. Maybe that's Bruno telling me I've talked too long. Dick, and I'm happy to take questions.
All right, Jim, help me. Mary Ann, help me. Let me start out and ask one question to get it going. Greg, if you'd unmute at this point, I'd like to ask you, once this process to figure out how, once the charter is taken care of and the process starts, is your organization ready to provide the information that's going to be needed to calculate cost and figure this all out?
Absolutely. So over the past couple of years, SD-SERS has looked forward to this day coming up and did a kind of what I would say a triage and tried to estimate what were the possible outcomes of this litigation, and was SD-SERS able and have the capability to move forward with any of those types of solutions. And I'm very pleased to say that we have a very robust team here. We've got a great information system, and SD-SERS as the administrator is ready, willing, and able to implement any type of solution that the MEA and the other representative groups negotiate with the city. So we are in good condition here at SD-SERS. Over the past couple of years, we've been reaching out to all the various stakeholder groups and saying, we would really like to be a resource for them as they sit down at the bargaining table. We really want to make sure that we are a resource to help people make good decisions and decisions without unintended consequences, and good, simple, clean decisions that it's easy for people to understand, and it gets done what the negotiating parties really want to get done. So a long-winded way of saying we are engaged and ready to help when people call us up. No matter what stakeholder group that is, we're here for them.
That's great. That's great. All right, who wants to ask Mike Zucchet some questions here? Raise your hand.
Chris Brewster.
Okay, Chris.
Thanks. Mike, couple questions. First question is, what is the drop dead date on that 60-day whatever? And then the second question is, or posit is, if I understand this correctly, once this is resolved in the court, then the city council has to take action to formally undo it and bring the charter back to the way it was before. At that point, once they have done that, going forward, is it not accurate that all new employees who are eligible for to be enrolled in the retirement system will automatically be enrolled, and that your meet and confer is really about those people who have been in the interim not able to enroll?
Yes, so answer your first question is April 9th. The ballot proponents have to file on or before April 9th. That's when the 60-day runs. And your second point is right on. Once the city council takes the action, which is, I'm not sure if it'll be by resolution or by ordinance, to essentially do what the court has directed them to do, which is to remove the language from the charter. Once that language is removed, the employee who is hired the next day, that's sort of the easy part of this. They'll be back into the pension system that was in place before Prop B. And you're right, that's sort of the easy part. Going forward, prospectively, it will be everybody back into the pool. And then that will sort of put a end cap on the people hired between July 20th, 2012 and whatever date that we just talked about was, and anybody hired in between will then be the subject of what will be much more detailed and complicated and interesting discussions as to how to handle them. What happens if an employee doesn't want to go back and is fine going in on a prospective basis, but doesn't want to go backwards and buy those years of service credit? What if an employee was hired by the city in 2013, but left in 2019? What do we, how do we handle them? And you can probably come up with 5 other variations that need to be sort of contemplated. And yeah, that's where the work will be done. And you're correct. The new employees, well, that's easy. They're back into pensions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who else? Mike, do you see all or nothing, or do you see other options that you can, in a high level, talk about in terms of solutions?
All or nothing in terms of I'm sorry, of what exactly?
Everybody must go back in.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Or are there other options that might be pursued?
So even though I said I wouldn't do this, I will engage in this a little bit, but just know that number one, I'm not a lawyer. Number two, these are not the negotiations. But some ideas that are out there, some options that are out there is number one, as we just talked about, whether you're a existing employee or a yet to be hired employee, on a prospective basis going forward, I do not believe there's going to be any choice. You will be in a defined benefit pension program on a go forward basis. So that's number one. I don't see, I think you called it all or nothing. That's going to be an all. But going backwards, employees are going to have the option, but it's not clear if they're going to have the, if it's going to be required that they go backwards and essentially translate their existing years of service into pension years of service. Because as everybody here knows, when you do that, that requires 2 things. It requires the city to make a contribution to make that happen, and it requires the employee to make a contribution to make that happen. And going backwards, that's going to be a substantial contribution, including for employees. We'll follow whatever the SD-CERS actuary tells us that contribution is for each employee, and it's going to be a big number. Now, the good news is, in the interim, the city has been contributing to a 401k style defined contribution program for employees, which should have sufficient money to cover all of that, plus the PERB order, which will be the order that gets implemented, requires the city to, quote, make employees whole, plus penalties, plus interest. So it should be the case that employees will be able to make this transition, including buying all of their previous years of service credit and transitioning it into pension service credits, essentially cost-free to them. But there might be some who don't want to do that for some reason. Or maybe they just really like their 401k and don't want to use any of that money to go back and buy service credits. Or maybe they already have a pension, or maybe they're about to quit the city tomorrow and they've only worked here 3 years. and they don't, so you can think of all that. And I think the guts of your question is, will those people have an option? And the answer is they might. And that's something that we just need to figure out as to what, as a matter of first and foremost, law requires, what the tax qualified status of the plan would require. And it seems pretty clear about the prospective part of that. It's less clear about the going backwards part of that. And on the one hand, as an employee, as a union, as a membership organization, we want our employees to have the most choice as possible. We don't want to make them do something that they don't want to do. So on the one hand, MEA at the bargaining table will probably want to maximize options. On the other hand, as a labor organization and as a supporter of retirement security and pensions, we want it to be clear that the city of San Diego, like most other public jurisdictions, is a defined benefit pension organization. And so we'll just have to balance all of that as to how that is going to work out. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a flavor, but of course, the real answer to your question is to be determined.
Appreciate that. And that's, you did address what I was really asking. Jim?
Yeah, this question's probably for Greg. My understanding of, if Prop B had not been overturned, the CSRS retirement system would basically go out of business at some time in the future because we'd all die. There'd be nobody left to join. So isn't it, in a way, not just for your job, but beneficial for the retirement system to have more contributors rather than less?
That is a very, very good question, Jim. And the good thing is that the pension plan funding design is designed to operate in all conditions. And it is also designed that it may someday wind down to having no members. I will say 2 years ago, the Board of Administration started thinking about this, and they said, well, what if SD CSRS is not open back up? What if that possibility happens? Is there a different way we should invest the investment portfolio? Because everybody's getting older, you're not getting as much contributions in. So, there's different decisions that have to be made, but we would still remain a viable pension plan, irrespective of the number of participants in the plan. Now, I will say it is a lot easier to run the pension plan with new members coming in because you're getting additional capital, you're getting additional monies to help cover that retiree payroll, in addition to investing the money. So, again, we're doing okay with the path we're on today, and we'll do even better because we'll have the added benefit of more cash flow.
Thank you.
And I might add, from my time on serving on the board, and there were some thoughts about it even years ago when I was there. One of the issues you get into as the system is putting out more money than it's taking in, and as the corpus gradually shrinks, you have to be more conservative with your investments, which means a lower rate of return, which means higher costs to the city. So there, I would state it even stronger than what Greg has stated, that I think that there's a great deal of advantage to opening the system back up and keeping the cash flow coming in and keeping a corpus of money, which enables them to be much more diversified and less concerned about volatility in the markets. Jim?
Another question, this one's for Mike, I suppose. You might have noticed that we've had a turnover in the federal government got a new president. You probably kept up with that. Can we look forward to a better environment for public employees going forward with Biden in charge?
Yeah, that picture that hangs in City Hall high above the council dais, a couple of staffers took a picture, even though it's the pandemic and the chambers aren't being used, when the previous president's picture was taken down and the new president's picture was taken up, those pictures circulated, and those were fun to see. It's always daunting sitting in there with that guy staring down at you with that mean look. But anyway, I mean, I think that's figuratively also the answer to your question. I mean, to what extent does any president really have on public employees who work for the city of San Diego? Probably not much, given that we live in California and have pretty strong, state rules and legislature that does that. But certainly for public employees in general, and certainly for federal employees of the federal government, it's a world of difference. President Trump did a number of things to federal employees and specifically went after their portions of their collective bargaining rights, and certainly, letter carriers union and other specific things. So certainly it's going to be a much more employee-friendly administration. What's that really going to mean for San Diego? Probably not much, other than a much nicer picture at City Hall.
Mike Bresnahan. Mike Bresnahan. Mike Bresnahan.
I'm unmuting. Thank
Okay.
you. Mike, in the going back to Prop B, do you have any insights, or have you heard anything about the possibility that the supporters of the 401k option, they obviously got defeated this time because they didn't do it legally, but is there any thought that they might choose to re-up to that effort and do it legally this time? Have you heard anything about that activity, please?
Great question. And Mike, I apologize. I left you out of the list of people that we normally meet with. I'm sorry, but it's always a pleasure to be with you at MEA. So good question. So, 2015, 16, 17, when we were winning the case, that was really the threat that Carl DeMaio and others would say is, be careful what you wish for, employees. If you overturn Prop B, we're going to come back with the mother of Prop B or the father of Prop B or the son of Prop B. I can't remember what they would call it. And we're going to do it right this time. We're not going to deal with Jerry Sanders and those weasels at City Hall. We're going to do it right, and we're going to screw everybody this time. So that was the noise back then. But to answer your question, that noise doesn't exist anymore. And I think there's two reasons for that. The first is, although there's a lot of politics and, rhetoric involved with, ballot initiatives and pensions, in terms of what it's really done to the city, it's really a terrible record. It's really been very hurtful to the city and to services. And of course, the best example of that is people were promised in 2012 that everybody would follow. Well, nobody followed. The city of San Diego is the only large jurisdiction west of the Mississippi that doesn't offer defined benefit pensions to new hires, let alone in California. And so that's the definition of a huge competitive disadvantage. And frankly, it was a big selling point in the 2012 ballot initiative that San Diego was going to lead the way. We're going to end those pesky defined benefit pensions forever, and we'll be the leaders, and everybody else will follow. Well, nobody followed. So there's a lot of substantive reasons why they wouldn't do it again. And the other reason is, politically, it's just not as easy a political topic in 2020 or 2021 or 22 as it was in 2012. Just think how different San Diego was, and the politics in San Diego was just 10 years ago. And the politics of, anti-public employee sentiment and anti-pension. Speaking of our new mayor, I remember doing a debate with then Councilmember Gloria and me versus Carl DeMaio and April Bowling. This is when it was clear that Prop B was going to pass, and pass by a lot. And, it was a hostile crowd. If they had tomatoes, they'd have been throwing it at Todd and me. But Todd bless his soul, and as a demonstration of his character, he argued passionately why this was a bad idea. I think if we had that same debate now, I think some of the tomatoes might be thrown at the other side of the table. So, and of course, in politics, money is everything, and everybody, the Lincoln Club, the Taxpayers Association, the Chamber of Commerce, business groups, developers, they couldn't throw enough money at Prop B. But I don't think those groups, a couple of them would, but I don't think all of those groups would throw millions of dollars to get another ballot measure on the ballot. So I don't think so is the answer to your question, but to the extent they might, we'll deal with it as it comes. And this time I think we'll be a little better prepared. Well, we were prepared last time, but we didn't have much in the way of ammunition, but now we have a lot more in the way of ammunition to explain to voters. And I think they'll have their ears on this time as to why it's a bad idea if somebody tries to go down that road again.
Yeah.
Did you call me?
Yeah.
Okay, I got a maybe a confrontational question. Retirees, myself, qualify for Social Security. And so the big calculation is I get a certain amount of money because I earned it. But because I'm a public employee and have a pension, my Social Security payment's reduced. I think they call it a Cadillac something. I can't remember what. It's federal legislation that sets that. I think I'm being screwed, and all employees who are public employees who get a pension and thereby have their Social Security payment reduced are righteously should be pissed off, I think. It doesn't directly address current employees. Is MEA supportive of an effort to change that so that our Social Security benefit is not reduced anymore just because we also have a pension?
You are so confrontational, Jim. This is no way to treat a guest. Of course we are, and that's not a controversial position. And you're right. It's an arbitrary screwing of public employees who otherwise have other retirement options. But if they pay their 40 quarters into Social Security, they don't get the full benefit of that. Even though their neighbor does, who might have worked in the private industry. So that's something that's been talked about for a while. And I guess I'll go ahead and amend my earlier statement about how, I'm not sure how much presidents matter to San Diego City employees, but that's a great example. It's something we have weighed in on before, and it's a great point. I think we should think about what sort of coalitions we could build in California to talk to our members of Congress about the possibilities of changing that. I'm upset that I don't remember. I used to know it by heart a few years ago when I really looked into it. First of all, in terms of what's it called and this notion of excess that's in the code, but I think there's some state law provisions that have something to do with it as well. But anyway, the answer is an enthusiastic yes, and I think that's a good thing to put on the agenda for our next meeting. Actually,
we'll do that.
Windfall elimination provision.
Windfall elimination provision. Very good. I was struggling with the same thing. Joan? Jean, sorry. Jean,
yes. Didn't the city take us out of Social Security in the 1980s?
Yes. However, if you worked in other jobs throughout your lifetime that had Social Security benefits and reached a certain threshold, that windfall elimination provision penalizes you essentially and doesn't let you collect both your full Social Security benefit and your pension. And so you're right, where this only applies to city employees who have worked essentially 10 years outside of city employment and also gotten a defined benefit pension from the city. But by the way, that's still true today for these employees, you know, these Prop B affected employees still today do not have Social Security. So they have neither a defined benefit pension nor Social Security benefits until Prop B is undone finally.
And more hands up. Anybody see any hands?
Yes, Karen Butler.
Yeah, hi, Mike.
Hi, Karen.
There's also the issue of Social Security being able to be passed from one spouse to the other if you have a benefit plan like I do. I can't get my spouse's Social Security in the event that she passes away because I have this benefit plan that I get as a pension. And that is in the same vein as the other windfall elimination benefit. So that's another issue that goes hand in hand with that, such as, So I thought maybe we could put that as something to keep advised of or maybe support.
Yeah, appreciate that. And I'm familiar, less familiar with that, but I think I know of what you speak, and I agree that's also part and parcel of essentially penalizing people with defined benefit pensions, which should be on the list.
Thank you.
Joan McNamara.
Yeah, hi, Mike.
Hi, Joan.
I just wanted to follow up with Karen because my understanding is that the fact that we didn't contribute to Social Security during the whole time we were at the city had even a greater impact as far as the windfall and this not ability, not to be able to get your spousal benefits. So can that be part of your whole thinking? And is that something that you would think about, is trying to get us back into the Social Security system as well, instead of the SPSP lookalike?
So, and I'm sorry, UPS is in the neighborhood again. So you're asking, would we also fight to have employees re-enter Social Security, even if we get them back into pensions with Prop B?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking would solve some of this problem if they were, instead of contributing to SPSP, the city employees were back into Social Security. I think it would solve some of the problems, with the.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, if it was being Social Security or not being Social Security, I think most people would choose to be in Social Security. The way the city has dealt with it in the past, and probably would in the future, is say, oh yeah, you can go back into Social Security, but the amount we have to contribute, we're going to take from you somewhere else. So their 6.2% contribution, employer contribution, is a decent number, and that wouldn't come for free. And so in the past, and this just happened in 2012 with Prop B, the city said, would you all like a contribution to your 401k style defined contribution plan of X, or would you like to be in Social Security, in which case we're going to take that out of your defined contribution contribution by the city. And so I'm probably not explaining this very coherently, but the point is, it wouldn't come for free. And at least the employees that we polled back in 2012 were choosing to have the direct contribution rather than investment in Social Security, which a lot of young folks these days don't have a lot of confidence that Social Security is still going to be there in 40 or 50 years when they need it. And so it sort of opens a can of worms. But to answer your question, that's always a topic of discussion, and it's something always on our mind, and something we argue for is retirement security, and Social Security could and should be a part of that. But our first goal obviously is to get people back in defined benefit pensions, which is what we can control the most. And then that topic would probably be hot and heavy once again.
I just would just like to add, my understanding was that SPSP was a replacement of, for Social Security. And in order to get out of Social Security, they had to put in money into SPSP. That was part of the original deal. And that money, those monies, instead of doing SPSP, then that could go into Social Security. That was my understanding.
Well, yeah, this meeting is much too
short right
to talk about all the things that the city has taken away, had given at some point in exchange for something, but then just took away unilaterally without replacing it. And you're right, SPSP is one, retiree healthcare is another, but new employees of the city of San Diego haven't had SPSP since 2005 or 2009. I can't remember which. Retiree healthcare is one and SPSP is the other. So those are long gone benefits for new hires to the city anyway. And so bringing them back in some form of either actual Social Security or a new SPSP would be costly, and we'd have to give up other things to get it.
Joe, did you have a question?
Yes, I had a question or statement that when the city got out of Social Security and had to provide SPSP, they recognized in the reports that since it was voluntary, that a number of employees would not take advantage of that. And they were seeing that as a corollary savings. So, but I would go back and I think Bruno and I would agree that the main thrust should be on the elimination of the windfall procedure. If we could, that comes up every year, but I think maybe this year we have a little bit more opportunity to get some action on that front. Thank you.
Amen. And nice to see you, Joe.
Joan Hernandez.
Yes, I was part of that SPSP committee when it was first formed. And part of the mentioned and bylaws and all that, it stated that if the city ever stopped SPSP, we were supposed to go back into Social Security, government rule. What happened to it?
What happened to it is the courts about 10 years ago essentially ruled that the only thing that is a true vested benefit is an actual pure and total defined benefit pension, and everything else, whether it's drop, retiree healthcare, SPSP, or any other retirement-like benefit or post-employment benefit that's not an actual defined benefit pension, is not a vested benefit and is in fact an employment benefit, and which means it can be taken away unilaterally. Courts in the 80s, 90s, 2000s ruled the opposite for decades. But when the politics of pension reform and the Great Recession came, the courts in a wave, ruled differently on one thing after another, some of which was litigated by Ann Smith and MEA, some by POA, some in Superior Court, some in federal court. And it really changed the legal landscape. And so you're right. I mean, it's just, just even think of, purchase of service credits and what a lot of people on this call had to do to undo, what had been done before. And you would think just in the, if that had happened in the 90s, the courts would have said, no, you can't go back on people like that. But the court in this case said, yeah, no problem. Pull the rug out from under people. So that's the way the courts have gone in the last 10 years is the short answer to your question. The only thing that's protected as a matter of law is a vested pension benefit. And that is narrowly defined as a defined benefit pension, essentially. And everything else that's related to it is not vested and not protected by law.
Have any final question before we sign off today? Anybody? Well, Micah, thank you for a great presentation, and by your wealth of knowledge and ability to answer a myriad of, but I think, a pretty darn good questions. So thank you again, Mike, for your partnership, your participation with us today, as you do annually, and you're always a welcome guest with us. And thank you, members, for a great meeting. And we will see you all back here in March. That will be that will be the meeting that represents our last in-person meeting of last year because of COVID. So we can remark that, and maybe we'll all have vaccines by then. So
Hopefully.
thank you all, and we'll see you next month. Thanks again.
Thank you. Hi, Francine. Thank you, Dick.
Hey, Mike, how are
Thank
you?
you.
Thanks,
Thank
Mike.
you.
Mike.
Good. Take it easy, everybody.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Nice to see you all.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Yeah, there's some faces I haven't seen in quite a while. That's great.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Guy.
Bye-bye.